Do you feel the fear spreading in your body when you see a harmless spider? Or is your head spinning and the bones that were previously in your legs are becoming jelly when you're in a high place? Well, if that's you, then you're definitely not alone. So in this video, we're going to take a closer look at the 9 most common phobias. But before we do, if you like what we're doing on this channel, then remember to subscribe and hit the little notification bell so you'll never miss a video. Let's get to it. When you were a kid, you've probably heard your parents tell you this: what are you scared of? There's nothing to fear. Maybe you were afraid of the dark, or the neighbor's dog, or thunder. Most of our childhood fears we've grown out of, but even as teenagers and adults, most of us have phobias that we just can't explain. There's some discussion about which phobia is the most common, so if arachnophobia is in the most common, then it's very close. Arachnophobia is the fear of spiders. Some studies have concluded that about 50% of all women and 10% of all men suffer from arachnophobia to some degree. However, suffering from arachnophobia isn't exactly the same as disliking spiders. I think many of us agree that we just don't like those little hairy, 8-legged intruders in our homes. But people who suffer from arachnophobia will do everything in their power to avoid situations where they could potentially come face to face with the little monsters. So they'll avoid stuff like camping or other outdoor activities, or even going down to their own basement because they once saw a spider web down there. If arachnophobia isn't the most common phobia, then acrophobia is. Acrophobia is the fear of heights. It's different from person to person. Some people with extreme acrophobia will get dizzy just by standing on a chair. Other people will just get the heebie-jeebies by looking at the ground through a floor-to-ceiling window in a tall building. Glossophobia is the fear of public speaking, and it's believed to affect 75% of the entire population. It is more common in younger people than older, and more common in women. It is also believed that it's not actually the act of speaking publicly that's the problem with this phobia, but the risk of feeling embarrassed or rejected. But with enough practice and preparation, it's definitely possible to beat glossophobia. Emetophobia is one of the more overlooked common phobias, and it's the fear of vomit. There's some disagreement about just how common it is, but some studies have concluded that about 1/3 of all adults suffer from emetophobia to some degree, and there are multiple subcategories of this phobia. Some people fear vomiting in public, others fear seeing vomit even if it isn't live, whereas others fear the act of vomiting, and a 4th subcategory fear just being nauseated. Brontophobia is one of those fears that many children have but then outgrow it. It's the fear of thunder and lightning. So it's most common in children, in animals for that matter, but some adults also suffer from this phobia. In some people, it's so bad that they hide under their beds or in closets to feel extra safe during a thunderstorm. Mysophobia is the fear of contamination and germs, and it exists in a lot of different versions. Some people just have a mild compulsive need to clean the house often, typically in specific locations around the house. Others just have a slight compulsive need to wash their hands often. And then there's a more extreme version where people will spend most of their time cleaning every surface of their house again and again and again, and they'll avoid places that they perceive as germ-filled, like public transportation, for example. Claustrophobia is, as you probably already know, the fear of confined places. This fear is very well known, but actually it's not as common as you'd think because of its popularity. This fear is often used as an element in literature and movies, so that's probably why we've all heard about claustrophobia. This phobia also has different levels. In the more milder cases, people who suffer from this will avoid confined places like an elevator or a windowless room. And in the more extreme cases, wearing a tight turtleneck is enough to trigger anxiety. Airphobia is the fear of flying. Many people get nervous flying, but that's probably more because we can't control this huge machine in the sky, and we know that if we crash, it's not going to be pretty. But for people who suffer from aerophobia, this fear is so bad that they'll avoid flying altogether. So if they need to travel somewhere, they'll go by car or train. However, if they do go onto an airplane, they'll need sedatives to get some relief from the anxiety. Scutophobia is the fear of darkness, and to be completely specific, it isn't the darkness itself that's scary, but the imagined dangers lurking in the darkness. For most of human history, darkness meant danger because we lived among predators. So it's hardwired in our brains to be on guard in the darkness because it has helped us survive for so long. This fear is very common in children, maybe because their imagination is so strong that they imagine the boogeyman under their beds. But actually, a lot of adults never grow out of this fear, and for some adults it even turns into a downright phobia. That was it for this video. Do you suffer from any of these phobias, or do you fear something else that I didn't mention here? Personally, I have a phobia of sharks, and it's so bad that I can't even Google what the Latin word for that phobia is because I'm scared that I'll get bombarded with pictures of sharks. So if you happen to know what the Latin word for that phobia is, then let me know in the comments below. And no pictures, please. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video, and I'll see you soon.